And joining me now is a longtime friend, longtime colleague. And honestly, we're just having our conversation and we just decided to record it. When we check in on politics, Jonathan Martin, the great J Mart of Politico. How you doing, brother?
Hey, Chuck. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm getting you. We'll timestamp this. It's Saturday morning. It is 2 hours before the launch of the greatest sports season of any given year, which is college football season.
Week 0, which I am honoring this year because I have great friends who are Iowa State fans, and I'm happy for them that they're over in Dublin enjoying a pint or two as they see the Clones take on the K-State Wildcats. And they're calling us the Farm Bowl, the farm game.
They're calling it Farmageddon, but Iowa and Nebraska would like their nickname back. When they started Farmageddon, when Nebraska joined the Big Ten, which I thought was a brilliant way to name a rivalry that never really existed. Before Nebraska got in the Big Ten, Iowa and Nebraska never played. And then it was always Iowa State and Nebraska because Iowa State was the old Big Eight. I got familial ties to Iowa State. My grandparents both graduated from Iowa State. My big beef with Iowa State are those school colors, man. They only go together when you're at an Iowa State game.
I've done some cool turns to their uniform in recent years, though. It's
I agree.
I don't want to get too deep into the socioeconomic culture of Iowa and Kansas, but as you know, from having roots in Iowa, Iowa State and K-State are the Aggie schools in Iowa and Kansas, right? And KU and Iowa are the liberal arts English majors and the budding lawyers. The farmers and the engineers are going to Ames and Manhattan.
Yeah, my grandfather was a mechanical engineer, so you're gosh darn right. He would say that, and he would say, Iowa. He would. It's funny though about Iowans. As much as there's an Iowa State-Iowa rivalry outside the state, all Iowans root for both schools when they're playing anybody outside the state.
Yes,
like there is this weird, hey, don't pick. Only we get to pick on each other.
They don't hate each other like some of the in-state rivalries did. Exactly.
No, it's not like the way I feel about the Gators and things.
Oh, they're
like
Iowans, man. They're good people.
Exactly, and they deserve first in the nation status. And if they don't get it, my second choice is actually Kansas. This is actually not a bad place for you and I to riff a bit, which is
not happening.
The Democrats are trying to figure out where to go first in the nation.
Yes.
And the 3 states that they're supposedly contemplating, to me, I look at what they're doing and it looks like a party in retreat. They're afraid to go anywhere that's remotely leans red. So you're reporting that it's going to be New Hampshire.
Yeah. So what my view on this is, Iowa and New Hampshire believe they have this divine right to the first in the nation primary, which of course drives the other states crazy, Chuck. But here's why New Hampshire is different. It's a state law. It's not a partisan issue. It's run by the state of New Hampshire, not the 2 parties. They're going to have it in January or February or wherever. And if they are leapfrogged, we know what happened in 2008. We spent New Year's Eve in Des Moines because the states will just move up their primaries to avoid being leapfrogged. Right. And Chuck, more to the point, Joe Biden did obviously grave damage to his party on a lot of levels. One of the things that's largely forgotten that he did was he rearranged the primary calendar to ensure his renomination with little challenge. And he threatened to take away New Hampshire's delegates if they still went first. Well, of course they still went first. And guess what happened? At the convention last summer in Chicago, surprise, surprise, New Hampshire's delegates were restored. So they fired the one bullet they had, which is we'll take away your delegates, because no, you won't. You'll give them back at the convention.
But here's the problem. The DNC does not look at this as a way to build their party.
I agree.
What the DNC needs is to expand. This is not a party that's a national party at the moment, right? They're basically, they cannot compete in about 20 states. And that is not a functioning political party if they go down this road of not competing. They need, the beauty of what Iowa did is Iowa, essentially, because it was first in the nation, the voters became swing voters.
Right.
This is one of those cases where if you looked at Iowa through the prism of demographics, the way you'd look at any other state, it never made sense that it was a swing state for as long as it was.
Yeah.
Arguably, the reason it was is because it got this outsized attention. Iowans liked it, and I think, frankly, took it. It's a reminder to me. I've preached about this before, but I believe you can manufacture a swing state if you treat the voters like swing voters. The voters will respond in due kind. I mean, it is, and that is what I think is the lesson of, frankly, both Iowa and New Hampshire, states that on paper aren't necessarily purple states the way a Michigan, Wisconsin, the way the actual battleground states look. They look different, but it's because of all this early action and the early exposure. The voters, frankly, do wait, and they do kind of want to be persuaded. So, and the Democratic Party's problems in rural America don't get solved by being in New Hampshire. Okay, rural New Hampshire is not rural Iowa or rural Nebraska or rural Kansas.
No question about it. Right. It's more LL Bean than it is Carhartt. Although there is some Carhartt in the.
And by the way, and that's not right. There's certainly some, right? You spend a lot of time, and I know the main second district.
The candidates aren't spending their time in Berlin, right? They're in Portsmouth, Exeter, Keene. I mean,
where during the caucuses, there's almost a premium put on the candidates that do the 99 counties, right? They brag about it. It's sort of a part of it's part of the DNA. So I find, but my gosh, I mean, Jonathan, can you remember a time when the functioning leaders of the Democratic Party were this weak?
And no, I mean, the two congressional leaders have profound challenges. The governors obviously have talent.
They're the strength. The governors, right?
The parties, we have 5 podcasts on this, but the parties themselves are so weak now that it doesn't matter who the chairman is. The party itself just doesn't have the clout that it once did because they don't have the tools they once had. And for all the reasons we know, small dollar giving, social media, fragmented traditional media has made it so those folks just don't have the choice. Right. But the one thing they do control is the calendar. And so here we are. Because
here we are.
I will say, Chuck, I think Iowa is not coming back.
Even if Rob Sand wins the governorship, I think if he wins the governorship, there'll be a push.
I think the calendar is set by November 26th. I think it's too late.
Well, by the way, speaking of the DNC, are they about to have a mess on their hands in Minnesota? They're going to bring the entire DNC to Minnesota and have this fight with the socialists.
It's amazing, when it rains, it pours, man. Right? You're about to have the DNC meeting, and why not expose one of the biggest fissures in the party? And I know it's just incredible.
Just to fill people in, if you haven't paid attention, the Minneapolis mayor's race, suddenly the state party up there is pulling an endorsement of the challenger who won the state. The Minnesota DFL politics, you can win a party endorsement at a convention without the voters and all this. And so a socialist, a DSA candidate, a Democratic socialist won the nomination. He sort of gained the system, which is a reminder that just like the RNC was infiltrated by Ron Paul acolytes who became MAGA people and took over the mechanics of these state parties, the DSA is doing the same thing in a lot of states, aren't they, Jonathan?
Yes, no, absolutely. Most prominently in New York, where they're about to elect the mayor of the biggest city in the country. But no, I mean, there's lots you can do with a weakened party to basically go into it and sort of take it over.
They're very vulnerable.
The way, Chuck, is a story that obviously the GOP has been living through for the last 10 years. Trump effectively took over that party. And part of the reason why he did was because they were so concerned in 2015 that he would take his ball and go home. And so they couldn't keep him out. And so instead they brought him in, and it turns out he took over the party. I keep thinking about, by the way, the what if Reince Priebus and other sort of party fathers had really come down hard on him in 2015. I think Trump would have been tempted to create what we're seeing today in the UK. And I'm not sure that Trump would have had the attention span to do it.
That's what I think. I don't think he would have had the follow through. But
Nigel Farage has effectively marginalized one of Britain's 2 great traditional parties, the Tories, by creating his own reform party. And
I would have more faith in Nigel Farage to have the attention span to focus versus Trump. That's the only.
He does. I mean, he's proven that with Brexit on board. So, I mean, the common thread is either side of the Atlantic, the traditional parties are just a shadow of what they were.
So my sort of opener today for this before people listen to you is about sort of this weird August we've been through. And I think sometimes, and I know you will appreciate this, right?
Yeah.
August, for any other entity, at any other time in our politics, for my 35 years in Washington, August has been this sort of time to reset. If you had a major thing you wanted to do, you didn't want to do it in August. You waited until September, or you hurried up and did it in July. That's not how Trump rolls, right? Trump just wants, as I say, I call it motion, even if there's no movement, right? He's always rocking the boat, even if it's anchored to the ground.
Totally.
Right? This has been think about the list of stuff that's happened versus how much of it matters, right? We've had 2 summits involving Russia and Ukraine that appear to have done nothing.
Yes.
We've had we just had, we can work backwards. The FBI raiding John Bolton's house appears to be a weaponizing of the FBI. We've got suddenly the government is Donald Trump version of socialism with Intel. 10% that, the federal takeover of Washington, D.C., a manufactured interview with Ghislaine Maxwell that they released to make it look like they've released something. I mean, it's actually been amazing the stuff he's sort of thrown up there.
Yes.
But in all this sort of noise and nonsense, we still have an economy that's in really tough shape. And I don't know if Trump can distract his way out of it.
Yeah, one of the most famous examples of what you're alluding to, which is a sort of a fascination of mine, has been for a long time, which is this idea that nothing happens in August, was Andy Card famously gave a quote to the New York Times, Elizabeth Buehmiller, 2022, saying, "You don't roll out anything
2002.
Until after Labor Day," talking about the Iraq War.
Right. It was the Iraq War. Right.
You don't roll it out until after Labor Day. In any event, infamy. It's an old cliche in Washington. Nothing happens in August. I actually have written something about this years ago that it's not true. That, in fact, a ton of historic events have taken place in August. But no, Trump doesn't do vacating. He plays a lot of golf, obviously, and takes in a lot of TV. But he's not a vacation guy. He's not going to go with his wife and kids.
He doesn't sit still. Hey, why don't we play Monopoly? Like, my kids love when we're not at home. That's the one time Dad will play board games. Right. But I will.
There's no off switch with Trump, right? It's always on, and so you I think put your finger on it. It's constant motion, and really the point for Trump is the attention, right? The publicity is the point. I always chuckle when his staff says he's the most transparent president in history. Well, yeah, because the point is to get attention every day. Right. And so when you want to be on TV every day, that's going to lead you to go face the cameras every day because he wants to be the star of the show 7 days a week. Right. So, yeah, he's always going to do stuff that's going to make him center stage. It's a one-man act. And here we are. And so, but to me, Chuck, I keep thinking about this too, which is at some point you have to think that the tariffs are going to start pinching. Right. At some point.
They are now. I mean, there's these little anecdotes. I mean, I've had my own personal anecdotes. I buy all my chicken at Trader Joe's. They don't offer it in 4-packs. It's now 3-packs for the same price for chicken thighs. Shrinkflation. I was at the DFW airport earlier this week, and I'm ordering a couple of eggs, and the guy says, "Sorry, hey, the price changed. We charge $6 an egg right now. We have a $6 surcharge on eggs." And he says, "My boss says we lose money if we charge the price that's on the menu." And you're sitting there going, and the fact is, you're already getting gouged in an airport, so the gouge of the gouge is there, and so I know nobody's shocked when you're gouged in an airport, but these are these little things you see it all over the grocery store. Everything's gone up. Every streaming service has raised their price in the last 90 days. Power bills are higher. Everything is higher. I don't know how he can. That's something you can't distract away from.
Right. But, Trump it's interesting for all the damage he did to Biden on inflation, his fascination with the word groceries being one of my favorite examples of that. There's this new word called groceries. Everybody's saying it. It's like an old fashioned word, groceries. Trump cares more about the stock market than the price of goods, right?
Because I had Steve Moore was my guest this week on Newsfeed.
That's Trump's
and he said, Steve Moore said the only thing that he will react the cheap advisor is not a person, it's the market.
I've said this a thousand times. Trump is moved by two things, and they're interconnected: press coverage and the markets. Like those are the institutional forces that check Trump. It's not anything else, right? And he does care about the markets, and so this is why he's so consumed with getting Jay Powell to lower interest rates, because he knows that what will happen is what we saw Friday when Powell hinted at his speech in Jackson Hole that it's time to bring down rates in September. Oh my gosh, right? The market zooms. And so Trump is just dying to bring down interest rates because he cares entirely about moving the market north.
Well, as Steve Moore told me, you know why he wants to bring down interest rates? Because he's a real estate guy. I found it fascinating that a Trump defender, and Steve Moore is a Trump defender, is somebody that can't ignore the reality, which is, well, he thinks of everything like he does his real estate business. And how do you refinance debt? You do it at a lower interest rate.
But I mean, I feel like you're right. The elephant in the room as we get closer to 26 is the cost of goods. I just think it's what was so devastating to Biden. I think it's still out there. And for all of the sort of bread and circus, if you will, that Trump puts on every day, if people are paying more and the economy is not in good shape, that's going to be a problem.
No, it seems that's something he can't totally erase away with his showmanship. But let's talk about the John Bolton thing here a minute, because I want to connect it to something else that also happened this week, which is the Trump administration will use the government to try to impact elections. I know you pay attention a lot to Virginia,
regularly. Yeah.
Right. Look at the Justice Department is suddenly deciding to target Fairfax County and Arlington County schools, right? Geez, what's going? Is there an election coming up in 60 to 90 days? Yeah.
There is.
And you and I see the John Bolton thing. In the fall of 26, if Democrats look like they're poised to pick up Senate seats and win the House, I wouldn't want to be a nominee in a swing state, because I have a feeling I might have a IRS investigation, maybe an FBI investigation. You know, all you have to do is announce something. They may not I don't think there's not going to be a grand jury with John Bolton. I bet you what we saw Friday is the sum of the parts on that one, because there's probably no there. And yet it was the point was to create the headline, right? And so no matter what, you Google John Bolton FBI raid. And that's all Donald Trump wants.
I couldn't agree more.
We're going to see this in 26.
The Texas redraw is only the beginning, and not the beginning of reapportionment play, although it's certainly the beginning of that, and that's going to be a mess for the next 6 to 8 months. It's the beginning of Trump's campaign to avoid a third impeachment. He's consumed with not being impeached for a third time. He will do whatever it takes to keep the House. That starts with, you're right, trying to grab more seats through a mid-decade redraw. Right. But I think you're right. I think next summer and fall, if there are districts where you got to go into and you sort of, damage an incumbent or damage a challenger, absolutely, whatever.
Mortgage fraud. And by the mortgage fraud. Hey, look, mortgage fraud. What are you talking about? Right. And then you have to read the details. I don't think it's mortgage fraud. But the headline is the headline, right? Like, it's coming.
And Chuck, what's to say that even after the election, if there's a contested result or California's taken a long time, like it sometimes can, what's to say that you wouldn't just tell Mike Johnson, don't seat those folks,
Right. Don't adjourn.
It's all the election. Yeah.
Or how about don't adjourn? If he tries that.
Sure. Don't start the new Congress. No, absolutely. Right. I mean, we live in an environment where all of this is totally plausible. I think we have to, accept that. It's just so different from what you and I once knew. And you think about a difficult midterm for a Republican president in 2006. There was somebody in suburban Philadelphia who the junkies listening will recall him, Curt Weldon, who was a longtime House member, I think Delaware County. And I think he had his home or his office raided in 2006 and by Bush's DOJ and lost his reelection. I mean, here's a question for you, Chuck. Will Donald Trump's Department of Justice indict a single high-profile Trump supporter for any white collar crime the next 3 years.
No, I mean, no chance. No chance. Look at this Maxwell thing.
What are we doing? You know?
By the way, look at this Maxwell thing. So you're to tell me that Trump's personal lawyer, who now is a Senate confirmed Justice Department official, after dangling a pardon or a commutation, interviews Maxwell. Maxwell goes, my favorite part of the transcript is she says, hey, can I add something here? It's almost like the lawyer said, hey, you haven't like sucked up to Trump enough in your
Revise and extend, baby.
Yes, can you? And so she adds this statement, more clearing of Trump. And then the Justice Department releases the transcript as if they're being transparent. Right? Like, pay no attention to the actual supposed Epstein files that have been buried for years. Oh, by the way, we're gonna try to get a judge to release grand jury testimony because that's something that never happens. I admire the attempt to look like they're trying when it was painfully obvious they didn't want to release anything that they had, but they want to look like they're releasing something to feed their base, and they just did with Maxwell.
Fire too, right? Yeah, exactly.
No, but it does show you how, he really has turned the FBI and the Justice Department. I mean, I don't think if an FBI official showed up at my house, I wouldn't believe the charges, obviously, because I haven't committed any crimes. But it would be like, I just think that the FBI is its reputation it's going to take a long time to recover.
Well, Kash Patel said yesterday before they raided Bolton, this sort of, I guess he's chasing an online cloud, even though he runs the FBI. No one's above the law. Okay. Well, if that's the case,
all right, Kash.
Yeah. So I'll be waiting with bated breath for, again, a single high-profile Trump supporter who will be indicted for white-collar crime in the next 3 years. Here I am. I'm waiting.
Yeah. If you hold your breath, you'll die.
But I mean, if you were like a member of Congress or a senator for Trump, you'd take a bag of cash and they wouldn't indict you.
No, you can get away with anything at this point. Let's talk about the redistricting reaction of the Democrats. I watched Obama endorse it. Right, they put out that statement that's basically trying to convince good government Democrats that disenfranchising voters in California is okay as long as it's done temporarily and with another goal in mind. I just cannot sit here. I find it. Oh, we're supposed to believe. By the way, you know what that sounded like to me? Remember that Flight 93 essay, the infamous essay, which is look. There's an existential threat. Stopping Hillary Clinton, no matter how corrupt Donald Trump is, no matter how flawed of a character is, you have to.
Yeah.
How is that any different than Barack Obama's argument about supporting undemocratic redistricting? I understand the frustration. Okay, I get it, and I will say this: at least Californians get to vote on this.
Yes.
All right, they get to decide whether they want to do this or not. So, okay, but what a colossal waste of money, I think, and you're going to alienate an ally in Arnold Schwarzenegger to boot, which I just don't get.
And this is what drives so many not so reform-minded Democrats crazy, including the congressman named Brendan Boyle in Philadelphia, who is just guns a-blazing on this stuff. He says, we do all this guru reform stuff to create these commissions to do fair lines or whatever. Like, we get no credit for it. And also, it doesn't help us politically. And, there's no chance in hell that, red state governors would in a million years do something like this. But Obama is wedded to this because Eric Holder is AG, part of this national reapportionment project. And they want to do fair lines ostensibly. Well, no, actually, a lot of your Democratic governors don't want to do fair lines. They want to use this for what it's always been done, which is to grab more seats. Because guess what? The other guys are doing the same. And if you're not, then you're not fighting on, a fair fight here.
But I think the Democrats
Obama is engaged at all in this stuff. Why is he weighing in on this stuff?
I think they were trying to because they're desperate for donors. I think there's some donors that I'm not sure whether they should go all in on this. And I think they needed Obama to give, that it's okay. I'm okay with this. But I have to tell you, I think the reason, the Democratic Party has had a messaging problem for a decade, but they've been very competitive. And I think they've been competitive for one reason. Voters believed the Democrats were the adult in the room.
Yeah.
The minute the Democrats give up adult in the room status,
Right.
I think they alienate a slice of voters that costs them more than I know they feel. This makes you feel good.
Right.
This makes the base feel, hey, you're fighting. Hey, that's great. Gavin Newsom, all caps, is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think you're winning over a swing voter with this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just think that ship sailed after Biden, because the whole premise of Biden, Chuck, was it doesn't have to be like this. America.
Well, but Biden didn't govern that way. Biden governed as a left winger for the first 2 years when Ron Klain basically opened the door to every progressive idea in America, and it didn't get shut. It didn't get shut until Jeff Zients showed up, but it was too late.
Yeah.
I mean, I disagree. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. The perception is Biden was a failure because they tried a moderate and it failed. No, it was a failure because he tried to govern as a left winger and it was a failure.
Yeah, you do wonder what history looks like if Biden comes in January of 2021 with Mitch McConnell as the Senate Majority Leader, because 100%. They only win one of those two seats in Georgia, right? I mean, history turns on small things.
It's so true.
Specials in Georgia and in
the words of Abigail Spanberger, nobody elected FDR.
Yeah, and that was a really good reporter she gave that quote to. Whatever happened to that guy? He used to write for the New York Times. Oh, I know. That was me. By the way, a fun fact about that quote was that's the day after McAuliffe loses the gov race in 2021, when Biden's numbers are really going south after Afghanistan. And Spanberger is speaking for the frustrations of a lot of moderate Democrats, which is, we didn't elect you to be FDR, right? We elected you to get shit done and bring the country together. So, Chuck, flash forward a year from that conversation. Spanberger's own reelection in 2022 is called pretty early in the night. And Biden calls her, he's calling everybody who won to say congratulations. And she picks up the phone and said, Abigail, this is Franklin. Which is a pretty good line.
It is, but
but he was self-aware a year later of that.
Well,
quote,
I mean, by the way, isn't that such a reminder? Presidents hear every criticism, criticism, right? Trump hears every criticism. Biden heard every criticism. Trust me, I've leveled some, and I have heard. Let's just say I'm a little scared of driving through the state of Delaware lately.
Stay away from Hunter.
Yeah, I have to stay away. I'm not going to any art exhibits on that front. But so what do we think here?
The reapportionment thing, Chuck, this is going to be such a legal. I don't think people realize just how many states are going to jump in, the court fights,
lawsuits, courts. And here's what is it going to do to actual potential candidates? You're going to have people like, I don't know what lines I'm running in. We may not know the lines until a certain date. And this is just, it's madness, right? And we saw that Trump is, this is what's funny, we talked about how weak the parties are, but Trump has created a strong Trump party, right? It's not a Republican party, it's a Trump party.
Yes, right.
And this is what a party machine looks like, right? If people wanted to know, what did Tammany Hall, what was that like, right? This is it, where he just says, no, you're doing this.
It's all personality, right? Yeah.
Right. Very Huey Long, right? Very personality driven.
It's all personality driven. It's not based on the party.
There's no movement. Right.
Yeah.
This isn't about a larger idea.
Project.
Trust me. What is there is no larger idea anymore, right? This isn't about limiting government. My God. Right. We imagine, what would the right be saying if Joe Biden took a 10% stake in Intel?
Or told NVIDIA, it's fine if you want to sell chip to China.
Oh, we need a kickback. Yeah.
But you got to give me a taste. As they say in Philadelphia. Give me a taste.
Give me a taste.
Give me a little taste, baby.
I mean, it would be hilarious if it wasn't so alarming.
By the way, Mike Murphy has this great project in which he wants to get every city's reference to a bribery. So like in Philadelphia, they say, give me a taste.
Yeah.
I think in Chicago, they say, you got dusted off. My favorite, though, Chuck, is getting your beak wet.
I've heard beak wet. Yes.
I got to get my beak wet here, So
I think that was originally about something else in life, for a young mobster needed to get his beak wet.
Yeah,
yes.
In South Florida, especially.
Yeah, yes.
But in, so here we are, the year 2025, Uncle Sam is getting his beak wet with 10% of Intel, 50% of every chip sold at the China by NVIDIA.
Amazing.
No, it's not a conservative project. It's a Trump project. But you're right. It does have the sort of impact of being a hell of a machine. He dictates all these campaigns. You run for this. You don't run for that.
I mean, he basically has decided the Florida governor's race, at least in the primary and probably for the general. He just decided Ron DeSantis doesn't get to pick this person. I do.
So
and I'm going to make Byron Donald.
Yeah. South Carolina and a Republican primary are not great. All that matters, though, is that Trump is still for Lindsey. As long as Lindsey has that, he gets renominated, wins 6 more years. So, I joke, Lindsey could keep doing his Codells all over the world and spend half of his time shuttling between, Tel Aviv, Amman, and back to Paris, Brussels, and London, and never set foot in Ain, South Carolina, or do the Okra strut, or go to Charleston or Columbia, or whatever. Because as long as Trump is for him, you don't have to go to a parade, right? I mean,
are the only 2 responsible people in the Trump White House right now Rubio and Bessent? Because I think about if it wasn't for Rubio, Ukraine would already be under the bus, and if it wasn't for Bessent, the economy would already be, we'd already be in the crapper.
But we can't overemphasize how much there's this credo of "in Scott we trust."
Yeah.
Whether it's on Capitol Hill or the financial markets, I mean, the reliance on Bessent to keep a lid on Trump is incredible, right?
Amazing, yeah.
And in some ways, all the threats against Powell are kind of ignored at this point because they don't think Trump will actually act on it. It's kind of the ultimate taco trade. He's never going to actually threaten Powell beyond just ranting. But boy, the second Bessent is gone, you can see the nervousness,
Yeah, no, because if you end up with somebody more like Lutnick, who really is sort of, I had somebody describe it to me on the Newsfear show earlier this weekend, said there are times when Bessent's in the room and lawmakers will say, boy, I'm glad, or when Lutnick's in the room, I'm glad Lutnick was in the room. And literally the next day they'll be, why was Lutnick in the room? He sort of ruined everything, right? Because it's sort of, Lutnick just reads Trump and whatever he thinks Trump wants to hear, and he'll blow up a meeting, versus Bessent, who knows what the end game is and tries to figure out how to get Trump there. And sometimes it'll be like, all right, let's end the meeting. We're not going to get him there today, right? Bessent still wants to get the end game. Lutnick just wants to suck up to Trump.
Well, I mean, famously, the week of Liberation Day, Bessent rushes over from Treasury to the White House when they know that Navarro is not around, and got to Trump and said, "Are you seeing the bond markets, man?
Yep.
We can't do this." And Trump responds.
Yeah. So I want to pivot a little bit to 2025 and these elections. If I were to spend time in one place, I would probably stay in New Jersey. I feel like as New Jersey goes, so goes the perception of sort of the direction of both parties a little bit. That New Jersey will tell me, how much progress did Trump make in sort of in the suburbs in 2024, and did it stick, right? Is Mamdani a problem with suburban voters in northern New Jersey, and is that something that's going to be exploitable in 26? The point is that I feel like New Jersey governor might be the most interesting. Mamdani's, I think we know the result's going to be, we just don't know the margin. I think we have the same feeling about Virginia. Obviously, the California referendum becomes a different type of election night, and it's California, which means it's going to take 3 weeks to find out what the actual result is. But that New Jersey will sort of, tell us more. Yeah.
It's also hard for a political party to keep the governor's mansion for a third straight term.
100%. Yep.
Governor Murphy's numbers are not great right now, broadly speaking. In Jersey, voters are always cranky because taxes are so high in Jersey. They are inherently some of the crankiest voters in the country, right? So, all that's challenging. Plus something else. I think Jersey's just gotten Trumpier, right? I mean, I just think a lot of the voters, especially in South Jersey, parts of coastal Jersey, I think they call it the Jersey Shore, I believe, Chuck.
So I hear.
Yeah. It's just a Trumpier place. His style, his affect, that's fine with a lot of Jersey. But at the same time, Democrats nominated, Mikie Sherrill. You could drop her in Minnesota, Arizona, Washington State, right?
She bungled Mamdani, though. She bungled the answer, right? The easy answer is I don't think New Yorkers want New Jersey people to tell you who to vote for, and New Jerseyans certainly don't want New Yorkers to tell them who to vote for. But instead, she first said she got the first time she was asked on MSNBC, so she felt like she had to say nice things about Mom Donnie. Now they claim they've not endorsed, but of course, she got caught in the worst possible situation. She kind of supported, then wants to back off. So now it looks like she's scared. So she's pissed off the base and she's pissed off the middle. I mean, just a total miss. That was just frankly, as a friend of mine said, you guys love to use this phrase political athlete. That wasn't a very athletic move by her. And I'm like, yeah, you're right.
I add one more thing on New Jersey too, which is that Trump is much more sympathetic to Jack Ciattarelli, but he has Winsome Sears. Ciattarelli, of course, is the Republican nominee for governor who came around, became a Trumper, ran a pretty competitive race. I think it was like 3 change points against Murphy 4 years ago.
Correct. The polls missed it. By the way, New Jersey polling always is very, very erratic for what it's worth.
So I say all that because I kind of wonder, will Trump not only, really help Ciattarelli behind the scenes, but also can Trump get more money to Ciattarelli, right?
I look, I will tell you this, my spies on the ground tell me Ciattarelli's working harder. He's really he's learned some, look, running before and narrowly losing and not losing your mind is actually a pretty good recipe in governors. There's quite a few governors who lost the first time they ran.
Yeah.
That is not especially if you didn't try to go do something else, right? You come back and you do it again, and this time it's an open seat. Like, how often have we seen that? You come close against an incumbent, you don't quite get there, because I always say this, the second hardest thing to do is to defeat a governor in a primary. The hardest thing to do is to defeat a president in a primary, right? Like, these are defeating a governor in primary, extraordinarily difficult. Defeating a governor in a general, extraordinarily difficult. It doesn't happen very often. So we only had one in the 2022 midterms, and a sitting governor lose. And so it is not easy. This is why, I do think Democrats nominated the best possible candidate, but, Ciattarelli feels like Christie to me. And I mean that as a compliment. There's a little Christie in him that feels like Christie had that right balance of Jersey. And as you just said, there's just something Jersey about Ciattarelli that makes a New Jersey person comfortable.
Yeah, the difference is that the deeper polarization and frankly nationalization of politics between 2009 and 2025. There's just a lot of folks in New Jersey who are like Mikie Sherrill, who aren't from there, who are, suburban, college-educated people who find Trump to be anathema to everything that they stand for and are never going to vote for the Trump party,
Isn't it interesting how many, it's funny you bring that up, right? You've got, like, John Corzine was not from New Jersey, right? You have Sherrill not from New Jersey. Booker he wasn't born in New Jersey, was he?
Corey did grow up in Jersey. Yeah.
Corey is a New Jersey person, but there is some history of that. Obviously, Bill Bradley, Missouri, right? I think both Bill Bradley and Corzine were born in Missouri, right? Then
Bill Bradley from Crystal City, Missouri, south of St. Louis, and then comes east to go to Princeton. Of course, Corzine grew up, I think, on a farm in Illinois. As I recall.
Illinois, I think you're right.
Farm. It's funny you mentioned this because I actually had this conversation with a prominent New Jersey earlier this year, and my question was, would Mikie Sherrill be the least Jersey
governor ever?
Governor in modern history, because she is much more of a kind of TGI Fridays type figure. You could drop her any strip mall in America, and by the way, I don't say that as a criticism.
Of course not. Well, there's a reminder that the suburbs are more like, the suburbs of Atlanta and the suburbs of Milwaukee have more in common than Milwaukee has with Oshkosh, or Atlanta has with the Marjorie Taylor Greene district. And
I think Corzine was a farm kid from Illinois, but he was a banker at Goldman. And kind of lived in northern New Jersey, and that's certainly a Jersey archetype. Tom Keene and Christy Todd Whitman were kind of both to the manor board and have the accent, but that's also a kind of Jersey archetype. There's a lot of old money in New Jersey. And obviously Christie, for reasons that we all know, is very Jersey. So I think she is maybe the sort of least Jersey figure in modern times who would be governor.
Let me wrap with this. Labor Day the Labor Day before the next election year is usually the start of the official, sort of the more official start of the cycle, right? That it's really it's an 18-month drive, right? 15-month sprint to election day, midterms 2026, which means we are going to get a handful of members who decide not to seek re-election. If they decide they're not going to seek re-election, this is kind of the last accepted exit ramp, which is Labor Day, the September move. Now, look, we've got the House is a mess because of all the remaps. Right. So that's going to, in some ways, that's a delayed thing. But let's talk about the Senate, right? We've got Joni Ernst, who we don't know what she's going to do. I think that's still an open question. Susan Collins feels a little more of an open question, I think, but you tell me. Yeah. But I feel like we're still in the zone of we could have 2 or 3 more retirements, especially when people start to look at this. I think the spring of 26, if we're not in recession, we're awfully close. So if you're worried about, if you don't really want to, if you're looking at a 3rd or 4th term and you're in the president's party, you might decide, I can't do it. I'm out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the uncertainty about the lines and the chaos next year will drive some folks away in the next month or 2. I totally agree with that. In the Senate, I think I'd split Ernst and Collins. I think Ernst is unlikely to run for re-election. I think the party rallies in less than 24 hours. Around, oh shit, I forgot her fucking name.
Ashley.
Hinson.
Yeah, I agree with that. Open to look. I think Iowa's going to be one of the a great state.
Her name.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. Ashley Hinson.
I would split Ernst and Collins. I think Ernst does not run again. The party rallies around Ashley Hinson in 24 hours. She's the congresswoman from Cedar Rapids. I think that's a pretty clean extraction. I do think Collins ultimately runs again. She waited so long to have the gavel at Senate Appropriations. In some ways, tragic now that they're doing all these rescissions, which kind of takes away the.
I know. Do spending bills even matter anymore if the Trump administration's just not going to abide by it?
I mean, all these Southerners, right? Cochran, Shelby, who held on for so long, and she finally gets the gavel at Appropriations. I don't think she wants to give that up too soon. I think Collins does run again for re-election, but I think in the House certainly we're going to see a lot of folks who just say this ain't worth it anymore.
Where are you on Sherrod Brown? I mean,
I thought he was running for governor. I wrote about this in May. I think he was leading that way. I think a couple of things happen. I think Schumer is very persuasive when it comes to recruiting folks for the Senate. I think he wants redemption for the Senate. Said he lost. He's a man of the Senate. I also think, Chuck, that he got promised a lot of money from Schumer that the DGA simply cannot guarantee in a red state open seat race. There's just not the money for a Democratic gov candidate in red America that there is for any high profile Democratic Senate candidate. It's just that simple,
I hear that, and I just feel like it's just such a miscalculation. I think Ramaswamy is the most vulnerable potential. If you were the Democrats and said, if we have to run against anybody, you'd want a guy who's tied to Medicaid cuts, who's tied to the weirdness of Elon Musk and ketamine highs. To me, Ramaswamy, I think John Husted. Here's why look.
And it's easier commute. It's an easier commute if you live in Columbus.
I give Schumer credit for persuading Brown because if you couldn't get Brown, you couldn't put that race in play.
Right.
But who's the incumbent, Husted or Brown?
I know.
Right? What do voters think? I think if I'm John Husted, I could say, hey, I just got here. This guy keeps wanting to come back. Why is that?
I'm sure Schumer said, the history of appointees, Sherrod, those who are appointed are weak, and there's truth to that.
Okay, but guess what happens if you know what the prize for Sherrod Brown's victory is?
Yeah, exactly.
He has to run again in 2 years.
I know.
So $200 million races?
In a presidential cycle in a red state, which was the problem.
When JD Vance might be on the top of the ticket?
I know, which is why he lost last year. I think the gov path was.
I can't believe Brown got talked into this. And I like I said, you're right. Schumer deserves credit for his powers of persuasion.
Yeah.
All right. I give him that.
Right.
It just feels like I think it's a tougher race for Brown than they sold to him.
It's easier to win a red state away game if you're a Democrat running for gov than it is Senate because the issues are different. Federal versus local.
Look, I am I was literally a fly on the wall for a polling presentation for Amy Acton.
Yeah.
That it was designed to be semi-public, like they want. And
Sure.
it was from Molly Murphy, who's
Yeah.
a really good pollster on the Democratic side. And it was now in hindsight, it's obvious they knew what Brown was going to do, so they were given hey, go make your case. You're likely going to be the nominee now. And look, the Ramaswamy numbers are. I mean, the fact is, and it's possible that a lesser known candidate like Acton can make Ramaswamy a referendum, and maybe Sherrod Brown couldn't. Right. Like in a weird way, you might say that actually being a slightly lower profile where Vivek
about the other person,
about the other person, which is why I think it is why Sherrod Brown has a harder time in that race, because who's the incumbent,
But Chuck, who's Sherrod raising money from running for governor? And you should check out how much Ramaswamy already has on hand too.
Oh, I know.
It's a mountain.
It is. It's a mountain of crypto money. I know. I know.
Mean, this is the Democrats' problem. That you go to Hollywood, you go to the Upper West Side of Manhattan, you go to the vacation enclaves around
Nantucket
the country.
And Martha's Vineyard.
And if you're running for the Senate, you can clean up. You're running for gov, and you're talking about the issues facing the budget in Columbus next year.
Yeah.
Their eyes glaze over, man.
And yet this is why the Democratic Party is not a national party anymore.
Right.
It is just a Washington party. They're constantly trying to get power in Washington, failing to realize that if they don't have power in the states, it's that much harder to get power in Washington.
Yeah, they got to find a way to start getting money down the ticket. Now, I will say that there has been an effort when it comes to secretaries of state to really drive home the importance of
and
that
attorneys
office.
general. I feel like trial lawyers in particular have been tapped in to those races in a more effective way than you've seen.
You don't see the
global
effort to help state capital Democrats in ways that they got to have. You're right.
Yeah. All right. Who's your what's your college football attendance schedule?
Hopefully robust.
I've got a full calendar right now, at least through November 1st, brother. I got Miami, Notre Dame. I got Miami versus Florida. I've got Miami versus Florida State. I've got SMU versus Miami. Do you see a theme here? I got SMU. Miami's first road game outside the state of Florida is at SMU in Dallas, November 1st.
Their first road game out of Florida is on November 1st.
How about that? Because they're on the road in Tallahassee.
And
they're on the
ponies.
Yeah, exactly. So that's
my schedule.
That's my schedule so far. It's my first real college football freedom schedule. Last 2024, I didn't have this freedom.
You are, man. I'm an LSU guy.
You're a little more LSU, and TCU, right?
Yeah. We love that. We love the Frogs, and they have that dream march to the national title game. But I feel like this is going to be a good year for LSU, Chuck. I'm really liking.
Well, what if it's not? Right? I mean, Brian Kelly. This is a classic case where he either wins the national title or he's fired. Like it is Glengarry Glen Ross, right?
I don't think he's got to win the title. I think he's probably got to get to the Final Four, though. I mean,
he's got to get into the playoff. He's got to get into the
playoff.
Yeah.
Oh, if he doesn't get in the playoff, it's a disaster. But
right. That's what I mean. That right. First place is it's a Cadillac. Second place is playoff. Okay, well you get to keep your job. Third place, you're fired. Like SEC title game, but doesn't get to the playoff. He's gone.
Nobody cares. You got to make a run in the playoff, and I think they can. The question I have is can they fill in gaps that in the secondary and on the offensive line? I think those are hugely uncertain questions. They open at Clemson. LSU keeps scheduling these damn tough openers.
Well, I admire that, and did you see the SEC rules? They're going to go to 9 conference games.
Yeah,
from 8, and they have to play one Power 4 opponent. I'm like, no more. We
have to open at Clemson anyway. So,
it's Death Valley versus Death Valley. That's a game that I expected Jonathan Martin to be attending.
Well,
Death Valley the Battle of the Death Valleys.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Clemson in August is not exactly. It's not exactly Nantucket. Let's put it that way. Second of all, Chuck, I would say, to be totally candid, I have jinxed LSU in so many openers in the last 6 to 7 years that I'm just not going to do it again. Okay. at the Rose Bowl, neutral sites in New Orleans, neutral site in Las Vegas.
They're over.
Yeah, they're over, and I'm just not going to do it again. So they will open without me, and I hope that they can get a win. Look, Nussmeier's coming back. I think he's going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the country. Amazing receiving core. Develop a running game. Offensive line transfers come through. There's no reason they shouldn't make a run deep in the playoffs. No reason.
My favorite group of 5 team that could make the playoff is James Madison. How you feeling about your home state?
Isn't that a fun story? I mean, they were a 1AA powerhouse for so many years, and they got a bit of an inferiority complex. Please no hate mail, Dukes. And they've made the jump to D1. And boy, they're doing well. And Chuck, the stadium expansion, just drive down 81 in Harrisonburg. That thing's like a Taj Mahal now. It's incredible.
Can I tell you, the other thing is sort of, how, look, college sports does help improve your college application process. And the number of kids in my son's grades that preferred James Madison over Vatech. 10 years ago, Vatech, because of their football prowess, had become really started to rival UVA as a school of interest to a lot of kids in Nova. But now that Vatech has had, basically ever since Beamer left, they've struggled. Yeah. And it's James Madison's really the football power of Virginia. Sorry, UVA. It's helped. And you, like, my son, he can't believe the number. You got to love Snapchat. You can geographically see where all your friends are once college move-in was. And he looked and he goes, God, I didn't realize how many of my friends were going to James Madison. He goes, I'm glad I didn't end up there. It'd have been like 13th grade. But it has really become, their advancement in athletics has, I think, and everything you hear, it's really improved the entire school's bottom line, academically, financially. So I have to admit, I'm as a Virginian transplant, I've paid more taxes in Virginia than any other state.
It's
kind of pulling for them. Yeah,
it's neat to see. No, it's fun to see. The nickname for JMU for a long time was just missed UVA. And but I'll tell you what, in sports though, man, they're taking off.
No, and you know what? James Madison is the father of the Constitution, and my God, I wish we had more people that follow the Constitution. So
full circle, Chuck. Full circle.
Full circle, my friend. Jonathan Martin, go enjoy your Week 0 football games. Let's hear it for the Cyclones.
Go Clones. See you, brother.
All right. Bye.